Welcome to the United We Scan podcast, the podcast by rural carriers for rural carriers. The views expressed in this podcast are of the presenters and the presenters only and do not represent the views, opinions, or strategies of the United States Postal Service or the National Rural Letter Carriers Association. We ask that you please consult your assigned union representative for guidance in your local area. Please like this podcast, share with your fellow rural carriers, and subscribe to be notified each time a new episode is uploaded. Also, please leave a comment or question for us below. Thank you. Now, here are the hosts of the United We Scan podcast.
Welcome back, everybody. Episode 73. Guess there's some new videos that the National Board has put out, and of course, James has his new breakdowns for those as well. I have not watched them yet, so I won't be included in that, but I'll give my opinion where it's necessary. How was your week? Well, exactly. Opinions are like assholes. Everyone has one. James, how was your week?
And some of them are bigger than others.
Exactly.
As we have discussed.
Normal week for me at the post office, heavier than several of the past few weeks in terms of mail volume, which is surprising considering that we've heard from our president so often that mail volume's declining, and then I get slammed with mail right after mid-states. It's kind of hilarious to me. On Thursday, I had an interview with Ron Speakman of Fed Up Podcast. So Fed Up with Ron Speakman will have a interview with me coming up shortly. She'll be posting that anytime. So be on the lookout for that. And then this weekend, got to see the auroras. I heard they could see them all the way down into Florida at points. But I actually got to see them for 2 days in a row. So it was actually my first time seeing them. So it was beautiful. Got a lot of pictures of it. I'm sure I shared it with several different places for people to see. But other than that, just a normal weekend for me. Didn't have to work Saturday like some people chose to or had to. But I got a lot of other stuff accomplished during that time anyway. So, but other than that, it was a good week for me. How about you, Bill?
Oh, God, it's nothing better than coming back from vacation and Monday morning coming into 26 feet of flats.
Damn.
And then 7 tubs of flats. I clocked in. I walked over to the supervisor. I said, "You want me to go home now, or do you want me to go home at 10 o'clock tonight?" And she says, "What?" I says, "This isn't all going." "Well, let me talk to the postmaster." So she turned around. The postmaster said we could leave the clippers. Oh, great. The easiest thing to handle is the thing we can leave. So I actually got out of the office at 2:55 on Monday to hit my route. And I returned at 8:03. The funniest thing was when I walked by the supervisor and the postmaster's there, and I said, "Gee, I wish somebody could get the plants under control so that we don't get everything on Monday and they spread it over the week." And the postmaster says, "Oh, we can't do nothing about that." And I says, "I know. Why is that?" And we all know why. Well, in my area, we all know why. The plants answer to nobody but themselves.
Mhm.
And it's just horrendous that you get slammed like that on a Monday, and then the rest of the week, there's nothing. Even at the local level, couldn't the postmaster, delay some of the third class stuff until Tuesday and Wednesday? I mean, is it that hard a job, folks, to figure that out? That you don't want carriers out till 10 o'clock at night on Mondays? The rest of the week was normal. It was moderate parcels, and parcels, I'm speaking about stuff that I don't tray up, and then, a phenomenal amount of spurs, 11, 15, 16, 14 trays of spurs every day. And I'm only taking out 6 to 7 trays of mail, except for Monday. Monday was 13 trays of mail, but I mean, it's just ridiculous, folks. I mean, can't you just figure this out? It's not magic. It's not calculus. It's not geometry. It's common sense. But that's, like I said, common sense and common courtesy are not so common anymore. Other than that, like I said, good week. Grandsons, Mother's Day, And now I'm here with my favorite people in the world, second favorite, third favorite people in the world. And looking forward to the next upcoming week. And like I said, I'll be out for 5 weeks starting the 20th for an operation, but I'll still be participating in the podcast, and gave my wife, what to do when an active carrier dies, and my updated will. And she's like, "What's this for?" I said, "In case I die." She goes, "Don't say that." And I said, "Well, you have to prepare. You never know when you go under whether you're coming back out." So, it's supposed to be a normal operation and everything, and they'll put a mesh in there, but hey, it's all in God's hands, not mine. How about you, Kristen? How was your week?
It was heavy for me all week. Monday, coming back off of mid-states, I hadn't worked since, Wednesday? So I was all discombobulated Monday. I was missing parcels, turning around multiple times throughout the route. Like, oh, there's another one. Monday was heavy, as usual. It's Monday. Tuesday, actually, I was looking forward to walking in and having maybe a tray and a half of DPS for a Tuesday, which is normal for me. Nope, I had 3. So, yeah, it was pretty heavy all week, and then I had to work my K-Day yesterday because our H route took some vacation time, so they needed my sub for that route, and food drive day, and actually yesterday ended up being the lightest day of the whole week for me. So I guess if I'm working my K-Day, I was glad it was light, and even given the rain, we did pretty good with donations on the food drive, so. But other than that, my week wasn't too bad. Just heavy. And yeah, not a whole lot going on other than that. And this week I'm off Wednesday, so I'm not too worried about it. Ruby's got her OB appointment, and then Thursday I start training a new RCA. We will see how
Yay!
this goes. This RCA is an older person, so we'll see how it goes.
And as
Yeah.
far as the food drive goes, Lord, I wish people would stop complaining about having to do it. Be
Or
nice
how
for
am I
one day. Be
exactly?
nice for one day. I mean,
It,
you have a job, you've got benefits. If you're career, even if you're an RCA, you can have benefits or PTF. But God, there are so many people out there hurting right now, and you can't be generous, for one stinking day. Get
you know,
over yourselves.
I've worked this route on food drive day in the past as an RCA, so I know how much I can pick up on this route. And I didn't pick up anywhere near what I have in the past. Only I think a lot of that was because of the weather. But the majority of the stops I did have to stop at, I actually had to get out and load it into the back of the truck because there was that much. Whether it was garbage bags because it was raining or boxes with bags on top of them to keep the rain off. I had quite a bit. There was like only two of the stops I picked up that I could actually pick it up from the cab of the truck. So yeah, it wasn't too bad. I was
My
actually
my sub
impressed with
said that
what I did have.
my sub said she had more pickups than she had mail and parcels. That's like, good
Yeah,
for
I
you.
mean, in the past I would have been able to say that with the way yesterday went, but yeah, I mean, as somebody who has been, you know, scraping the bottom and has had to use food pantry services in the past, I have no issues with the food drive day and having to pick stuff up because I know it's going to go to the people that need it. And it's tough out there for many folks, including
Yeah,
many postal workers. I mean, it's tough out there.
and I just saw a report that American Airlines actually gives its brand new flight attendants poverty letters to take into their um, community health and human services organization so they can get food stamps because they are paid less than $27,000 a year.
Yeah.
And they have not ratified a contract since 2019 for them. So I'm hoping they get a good contract in their negotiations that they're doing, but theirs is a lot bigger of a contract than ours. I read one part, there's a section on it on just uniforms that is specifically 15 pages long.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then they got other parts like duties and responsibilities that they have to do in the contract that's 78 pages long. So they've got a long contract fight ahead of them, but right now they're on the food pantry and food stamp lifestyle themselves, and we've got RCAs that working 1 day a week aren't making it either. So,
I tell you
but
what, I do miss those paychecks coming home working 6 days a week as an RCA though.
yeah, yeah, I hear that. I hear
As a
that same thing I felt.
you know, I don't get me wrong. I like the consistency of having a somewhat same paycheck every pay period, but I do miss some of those RCA paychecks. I won't lie. But yeah, no, you know, I have no problems with food drive day. You know, a lot of people grumble or how are we gonna get paid for this? Honey, you know, you never got paid for it in the past. You're not gonna get paid for it now. You know,
Yeah,
you're providing a service, and there are many of those that are in a lot of worse spots than we are that need those services. And so, yeah, I honestly don't mind. It's just really nerve-wracking when people are throwing stuff that's been expired for 5 years out there to pick up, but I don't know.
yeah.
What's worse than that
So,
is like, carriers I know that when they bring the food back, they go through the bags to find out what they want to take. And they always yell at me for that.
Yeah,
all right.
no, no.
So this week's topic, everybody's been a buzz about and begging for us to do a breakdown on, is Maston's video on doing the step 4 on route adjustments and what it means to the rural carriers. So we're going to go through this line by line, the parts that have the most impact that we can talk about. In the very first line, very first sentence, he goes, "Hello, my union sisters. Hello, my union sisters and brothers." You think somebody actually learned from the last one we did to correct his way of speaking about it?
Plagiarism.
But he goes on, last week the NRLCA filed a national level grievance on the Postal Service's failure to follow the contractual provisions, which requires that rural carriers receive interim adjustments based on the formula in the national agreement. How long have we been dealing with this, Bill?
7 months.
More than.
Well, for the adjustments, at least 7 months. For following the contract, 103 years.
It,
I mean,
it's amazing to think that we have this provision in here to adjust routes interimly when we add more boxes, add more miles to a route that has been in place for a long time and was working just fine prior to Rex. And they turn around and implement Rex and have no way of fixing anything that is required of them. He then goes on to say, I had been hopeful that the Postal Service would have already implemented the interim adjustment process since we had approved the worksheet they presented to us more than 7 months ago. He was hopeful that the Postal Service would do it. What's your thought, Bill? Do you think they would have done it anyway?
well, let's take that word hopeful and put it in context of what the national board hasn't done for the past 15 years at least. And that is hoping that the post office stands up on their end of the contract, that they abide by the letter of the law. And hopeful is, oh, I'm going to wait for them to get around to do it before I do something, before there's enough exertion on the national board to actually act in the interest of the carriers. Hopeful is, I don't know what to do. Let me talk to our legal team and find out what we should do. This is the same context that I negotiate on your behalf for a new contract, but I have 9 different advisors, even one from the Teamsters, to help us negotiate a new contract. You are hopeful that somebody who is used to taking advantage of our craft, you are hopeful that a a business entity that for 5 years from 2018 to 23 has not paid people for their overburdened routes with the introduction of Amazon into many offices. You're hopeful that after the first 2 mini mail surveys, overburdened routes with 60, 70, 80 plus hours will be adjusted. We're past hopeful. This is to the point of lawsuit. This, you know, I'll say this in context, okay, folks? This is to the point of mismanagement on an international level. It's just it pisses me off that we can't strike. Many people can't afford to go out on a strike. But the fact of the matter is, we can do without management in our local offices every day. They can't do without us. And we ought to be swinging that hammer. That's what I would be doing. Wouldn't be hopeful. 7 months, I'd give them 30 days and then I'd have filed. 30 days
Well,
later, I'd have filed again and again
it,
and
ma-
again, every 30 days.
it matches their
Because,
pattern though, because they
yes, it does.
filed that one before 3 months after 55,000 carriers didn't get paid. Took them 3 months to file that one.
It's
So,
inexcusable. It really is that, our leader is hopeful. This leader would have told you, I'm pissed. I wouldn't have said hopeful. I'd have said, I'm pissed that the past administration didn't do anything earlier.
I
And
have
they,
to
they
agree
ought to
with
be
that.
held up for, they would have to be held to be failure to duly represent the craft.
And yet the thing is with the interim adjustments, I mean, that's what, prior to Rex, that was your bank time. That was
Yep.
your, you add so many boxes or you vacate so many boxes. So now we're waiting on this because it's unfair to some of these routes that have growth. And I'm not talking about the overburden that are already overburdened right now. That's a totally different entity in itself at this point with cutting of the overburden routes. But the interim adjustments could make a huge difference with some of these smaller routes that have the growth, but now have, as it's been so far, they've had to wait for 6 months to the next mini mill survey to see if it did anything for them. Now this way, get this going. That way we can properly be evaluated throughout the whole year rather than having to wait 6 months and, fingers crossed that it works out and maybe we don't go overburdened. We'll at least know what's going on with our routes. I think it's ridiculous that they waited 7 months to file. Honestly. I really do. I mean, maybe the 30 days, I could see where Bill's coming from on that. Maybe 90 days. At 90 days, I would have been like, no, we're filing this. You have this. We need to do this. We have already had the third mini mail survey.
All right,
When people
Madam Vice President, I disagree with you. You've had 12 years to get this shit going. 30 days. 90 days, forget it. 30 days.
Yeah.
Sorry, Madam Vice President.
That's okay. And that's where we can agree to disagree.
and so he goes on to explain that they had gone over everything and told the Postal Service they supported the worksheet, so on and so forth, and goes, over the course of the next several months, we inquired with the Postal Service on multiple occasions when the interim adjustments were going to take place. So, Kristen, would this be we're going to talk with them, and if they aren't willing to talk, we'll turn around and talk again, and if they don't talk to us, we'll walk out of the room, stop, turn around, go back in and talk some more?
Absolutely not. That's where, like Bill said, 30 days. I said 90 days. But that's where that time within that 90 days, let's test this and make sure it works. And if it's working and it ain't in place, then yeah, I'm going to file right away. Not all this, well, we're going to be hopeful and we're going to go back and talk because I haven't started it yet. And oh, let's go back and talk. No, there's no going back and talking and going back and talk and going back and talk. It's like, let's get this done, let's do this and get it out there because it needs to be done. You're harming your workforce by not having it in place.
And with this calculator they have, alleged calculator they have readily available, does anybody know of any offices that have been adjusted, cut, squared off, whatever you want to call it? I have yet to hear anybody say that it's been implemented across the country. So if anybody in our listening audience or, through the course of the week, you listen to the podcast, let us know. Contact us because
Well,
I've not heard of any office yet.
I know we have one listener who may join us later if she's up to it, that she knows that her route is supposed to be finalized, cut by Friday, so it would start under the new pay period Saturday. So when she gets back into the office tomorrow, she'll see where they're at.
Here's one saying June 2nd. It said we were told a month ago and still nothing.
Yeah, so he turns around and goes, I let the postal service know that this was unacceptable and once again was advised they were going to move forward. But as is all too common with the Postal Service management, the interim adjustment worksheet still has not been put into use. There's your talking, and it didn't work, so we went back and talked some more again.
Let's keep talking because that gets a lot accomplished. And they're going to implement it, but they didn't give a time frame, did they? That's where you have to nail them down on that. When, where, how.
What
These are the
offices,
answers we
what
need to
route?
know. Yes, we need to know specifics, not generalities.
I want to know so I can, so if I was the director of steward operations, I want to know so I can contact the stewards in those offices, the DRs and the ADRs, and let them know, hey, these offices and these routes are getting the interim adjustment as a test to start, or here they come. And same with the route cuts. These are the ones we're going after. Help us in these offices to make sure it gets implemented properly. Something like that. He says, it has become apparent that we should not and cannot wait any longer. Bill, he couldn't wait any longer.
Why not? 1 month, 7 months, 9 months? Does it affect your pay, Don? No, it doesn't. And that's why you don't give a rat's ass about the craft.
Your national board determined carriers have waited long enough and we filed a national level grievance. It is our position that the employer implemented a new compensation system without an appropriate tool to provide interim adjustments. Hang on a second. We were at SWAC and also Kristen and you and I were at SWAC, Kristen and I were at Mid-States. Didn't he say that Rex was pretty much perfected at that point? But yet now he's saying that they implemented it without an appropriate tool. So they agreed to a system that wasn't ready and allowed them to implement it when it wasn't ready.
I believe that would be the proper analysis of that statement. Yes, it wasn't ready, and we let them go ahead anyway.
And you're surprised by this, how?
Oh, I didn't say I was surprised. I'm just saying that's what I got from that statement. And of course, the comments that he made at both conventions that I attended and the ones that you both attended with me. Our grievance demands the employer immediately comply with the provisions of Articles 9.2 C10 and that those carriers who have been harmed be made whole retroactively for all deliveries and miles added since the initial implementation of REX, with interest to be paid at the federal judgment rate. So that's the top level they're asking for, is for retroactive payment for all miles and deliveries added since REX and interest before it's
And
settled.
penalties. And penalties.
There's no penalties on there,
I know. There would have been.
but I'm trying to figure out here what the whole point was putting that over the airwaves when they haven't settled it yet.
That's their work on being somewhat transparent and letting the craft know that they are trying to do stuff.
But wait, wasn't there a step 4 recently that they filed that they didn't tell us what they were asking for to give carriers? And they did tell us about it in a video?
I don't know, was there?
I believe there was, if we recall correctly, because I believe there was a step 4 filed for something that management was I'm looking. Give me just a moment.
Honestly, I think they need to do a step 4 on mapping being done correctly, and it's because it's not in all the offices. Yes, there are a good amount of offices that are doing their mapping correctly, but I am still hearing every day, every week, every month about offices that carriers don't get to sit down every month to do their mapping, or they haven't done mapping since they did their first initial mapping 2 years ago, or longer, or only update it just before a mini mail survey. Where's the backing from the union on that?
Or where's the radar reports every day? The PTRs every day.
Exactly.
Every day. Not when you get to
Where
it. Every day.
And not just during the mini mail survey, every day.
where is the step 4 on management falsifying the mapping?
That's what I'm saying.
No. Oh.
Use the word falsifying,
They
because
don't
that
like
is
to
what
do that.
management is doing, is falsifying.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody
Because
caught falsifying a government document as a union, we should demand their immediate removal from the United States Postal Service. Not transfer, removal.
Good luck with that one.
from what I've seen of getting management removed, it takes an arbitrator to remove a manager, because management doesn't bother to manage their managers. So before we finish this video out, he goes on, we have given the Postal Service ample time to do the right thing, but their continued lack of follow through has once again left us no choice but to take this action and include a retroactive component to the remedy so no carrier is left behind.
And we all know how long it takes to get retro pay for anything from the United States Postal Service. So if you're affected by this, and it does go through, and you're due some retro pay, good luck seeing that within the next 12 months.
Well, if there's a new president in town, it'd be file a step 4 for failure to comply every 30 days, right, Bill?
You bet. I'm going to chop down the entire Brazilian forest and flood them with newspapers every day. Grievances after grievance after grievance. Then I'm going to grieve the grievances.
Oh,
And then we're going to
and
go to the National Labor Relations Board in regards to jeopardizing people's jobs,
yeah.
their mental health, their psychological stability, because this shit's driving people crazy. It really is.
Oh, it is. When you're talking to your carrier friends from other cities, states, and whatnot on the phone, and they're nearly in tears because of what they're going through in their office. And it breaks your heart. It really does. I mean, my office is
I
not
had the,
perfect either, don't get me wrong, but Wow.
I had to almost laugh and cry at the same time today. A gentleman posted that he was interviewed for a position. He was hired. It took him 4.5 months to go through the entire process. And he had to wait a month after everything all said and done before his start date. And then on his start date, the postmaster advised him his POV wasn't large enough. He says, I'm here to get a job. I'm here to make money. I need to work. And for
Yeah.
almost 6 months, they put me through this and then come up and say, my POV is not large enough. Nobody explained that to him whatsoever through the entire process.
No, they don't.
What a failure.
And then they want to rag on newer RCAs who are assigned to government vehicle routes.
Mhm.
And because you have one POV in the route office in the route, and well, you have to have a POV, and they'll give them 6 months, and then they're ragging on them. I'm sorry, people. Number one, new RCAs more than likely cannot afford a vehicle that they can deliver out of, if you can even find one. And I'm not talking about going out and buying a right-hand drive Jeep. I'm talking about something that you can deliver out of, preferably a bench seat or having to get a vehicle and getting conversion pedals. I mean, that's a big chunk of change. And then the upkeep on that as well. And I know, as a POV driver for nearly 9 years, that gets expensive, especially as an RCA. And that's where I learned to do a lot of my own maintenance on my own. I mean, there were days where I was hitting the auto parts store when they opened the door at 6 a.m. and grabbing brake parts and changing it out in my driveway so I could be to work at 7:30 in the morning. You know, I've been there. I mean, that is a lot, and they don't explain that part of the job at all. And I think, yes, you have to have a vehicle that you can deliver out of. I completely, I get that. It's in the job description on the job posting, but they don't explain what that entails.
Or the one
Also,
where, oh, well, you need a backup vehicle for your POV. What?
No.
I need to have 2 vehicles for the purpose of delivering mail? Do you have 2 trucks available for each route? No.
Hmm.
Sorry. Kiss my ass, folks, because, you're right. It's hard enough to get one vehicle suitable, cross drive or do the pedals and, bench seats. You just put a piece of wood across there so that you can slide back and forth, with little uh, wheels on there for your ass. But 2 vehicles? Give me a break.
Oh, I know.
and
I mean,
this
I
also goes back to proper academy training materials that haven't been updated in over 5 years.
and now, yeah, and we got the update on that at Mid States. I mean, it's in the
Finally,
works. Yes, finally.
with a vice
It
president that actually is working on it.
Yes, because that vice president and myself, who is running against him, and we're on decent terms, but personal wise. You know, he feels our opinions and how we feel towards RCAs are quite similar. And so yeah, I mean that definitely 5 years why it's taken this long. I'm not gonna touch that one right now. But, and that's at no fault to our current VP. He's only been there for a year. Going on.
He was only an executive committeeman prior to this.
Correct.
So he did not have the ability to do the work he's doing now as an executive committeeman.
Yes. So that falls on the heads of the former VP, who is currently the
Yes.
president. So anyways, and that's all I'm going to touch on that one.
So let's finish this out. I have one more sentence left. He lastly says, I remain committed to keeping you posted about this issue and other contract administration issues and on collective bargaining as we continue to fight on your behalf.
I'm trying to carefully phrase this. Let me put this succinctly, and please do not edit this. Okay. Are you fucking kidding me? Nobody has faith in the national board. Nobody believes that you're acting in our best interests. Nobody cares of all the bile you spew at us in these videos because we don't trust you, we don't believe you, and we're sick and tired of the bullshit. End of rant. And do not edit that.
Perfectly said, Bill. Perfectly said. You got a man who stands up there at first and tells us that rural carriers have had it too good for too long. Tells us that carriers are now getting off closer to their evaluation times than ever before. One of the biggest benefits of the rural craft is no longer available, which was getting off ahead of your evaluation a few hours early because you knew that come Christmas time, prior to the 3 weeks that we get overtime guaranteed, that extra 2 hours during the summer was a big benefit to the craft as a whole. And they took that away from us. And this man stood up there and told us that this was the best thing to happen to the rural craft since sliced bread. He's telling us that the Delivering for America plan is gold, should be something we should look forward to, and change has to happen or we'll get left behind. And then he turns around and says, so no carrier is left behind, even though he just told carriers at mid states that if you either change with the times or you get left behind. You know, I get accused of misquoting him quite a lot. But the key to it is that is also the feeling that I get from the words that he is speaking. He turns around and says one thing and then does another. I've felt that several times between what he said at SWAC versus what he said at mid states and versus what he says on these videos. I don't know if you can agree with me on that or not, Bill, compared to what he said at SWAC or not, but that is how I feel about it, is that there is not something intrinsically honest about what he tells carriers versus what he tells management. Would you agree, Bill?
Oh, no, you're 100% right. There's no sincerity whatsoever because of the fact that there is no real concern for us. He can't empathize with our situation because of the fact that his route is 320 miles away from where he lives in California. His route is in an office so small that, oh, we can't, bring his down to a 43. We don't have the office space or the casing equipment to allocate for, the cuts. I mean, I hate to say, it's a load of horse shit, but horse shit. There's plenty of facilities that I know that have trailers where they have carriers working out of because of the fact that they don't have sufficient office space. But in Don's office, where he's padding his high threes for his retirement from the post office, they won't do the cuts because insufficient office space. Everything that they do is in their own interest. It's not in our interest whatsoever. Like you said, I mean, he's double speaking left and right from one format to the other, and it's of their own self-interest. It's placating the masses with, just I can't help but say kiss ass, speak because, he wants to say, "Oh, look what we've done." Well, you've done nothing for us. So, do me a favor, stop making the videos, stop wasting our time.
You know, it takes me back to the talking about people who don't pay dues and how he tried so hard at mid states to get the group to cheer for him talking about non-dues paying members, calling them freeloaders. And he paused. He did a pregnant pause. And nobody applauded, nobody cheered or anything. And he goes, I wasn't going to say it, but I'm going to say it anyway. Scabs. To get the cheers from the crowd. That right there to me tells me he's not concerned with the craft. He's only concerned with the amount of money coming into the union. And he will do anything to get your applause. Even if it means using a term That means people crossing a picket line. And that is the modern definition of it on the basis of striking workers. I'm still waiting, Don. Are you going to call for a strike since you continue to use the word scabs?
He's just monetizing the union in regards to the $17 million we could generate if everybody joined. Well, what about the fact that you have 17 million dollars that actually represents individuals whose concerns should be on forefront of your mind? I mean, that
Yeah,
is the reason you're there, not to represent the dollars, not these we can go out and buy another $1 million house in Alexandria, or pick up your expenses while you're traveling and getting your per diem, but to represent the craft, all the craft.
yeah, because you can't just go with the majority. You can't just go with the bell curves. You can't just look at spreadsheets and know how the craft is doing. You have to get out there and take a look. You have to be down with the boots on the ground because when push comes to shove, the people on the ground are the ones who matter the most in this situation. And what you've done is alienate enough of them to pull their dues to get us to $17 million outside. You've lost enough people that way by not listening to the craft. And now you're trying to tell them you're listening to them and tell them that you're fighting on their behalf because you're afraid of what's coming.
His biggest problem is that whether you're a union member or not, he represents the entire craft, the entire body of the rural
Yes.
carrier craft. And to be speaking down to people like that, I don't like condescending unless I'm talking to management. And then the other problem of it is, like you said, James, you're looking at numbers. You're looking at 17 million. You're looking at 240 knowledgeable union members who left SWAC, but that's okay because we signed more new hires up to make up the difference. You can't look at the graphs just like management can't sit there and be studying their charts and doing their files and getting their reports and does nothing to make the job equitable, efficient, or enjoyable. Why should people, I mean, short of working in cesspools, why should people not enjoy going to work?
I agree.
At least they're getting paid to deal with shit. We're not.
I love my job, but I love it more once I get out of the office.
You bet.
If I could do my job without having to deal with management that I have, and I could just get in there, case my mail up, if I didn't have to wait for the clerks to sort the parcels and twiddle my thumbs and whatnot and listen to management ranting about one thing or another and nitpicking this or putting a target on this RCA's back or, the stupid petty BS in the office stuff, you know, it would be. I would love it even more. But man, the minute I hit that depart to route and I'm out that door, I am, I'm golden. It's so much better.
Oh, frequency put up about the Ford visit the Midwest over the tornadoes, or is Hawaii just super special? Well, there was what, like 9 carriers in Hawaii that were affected.
Hmm.
I don't know that there was more than a couple hundred people affected to the Midwest. I mean, come on, let's be reasonable. Where would you rather go?
Uh,
Hey, do you guys want to talk about an S&DC real quick?
well, speaking
Yes, we
of
do.
comments, speaking of comments while you set that up, one person posted, I got some overburdened routes in my office that our POOM has forbidden giving help to. Now they are in 2080 trouble already, and Postmaster saying they're going to have to force them to take leave without pay to stay under. I'm about to get all kinds of steward practice here shortly. Yes, you are. You're going to get so much practice with that. Bill, what's he going to be doing the whole time?
He's going to file, 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 and smile. Matter of fact, Won't have to run his route. He'll be so busy filing. So
All right, Kristen,
let's
go
get to
ahead
the
and do your
S&DC.
introduction.
Yes. Welcome, Lynn.
Hi, how are you?
We're
Good.
good.
Can you hear me all
Okay.
right?
Absolutely.
Perfectly.
Oh, this is weird. Um, I don't know where to start. I do want to say Happy Mother's Day to everyone that's listening,
Thank you.
and Kristen.
Thank you.
When we moved to the S&DC, I was trying so hard to be positive, you know. I try to stay positive and see the good in everything. And we get there and, you know, it was a little chaotic at first, but it's pretty smooth now for, you know, where we park and it's a lot of walking for sure. But when we moved for my route, it added 4 hours. And we moved, the first day there was February 24th. And now this past week, it did up my route to a 48K. And now I make too much and higher level management's coming in and cutting. He was supposed to be there, I think, 2 weeks ago, but he went to the S&DC a bit north of me, higher upstate New York, and did that whole S&D first. Now he's on to ours, and he walked up to me Thursday, the higher level management guy, and I said, you know, my route, it's not really overburdened. I'm done by maybe, you know, 2:30, 3 o'clock, maybe a little bit later on Mondays, but it's not really overburdened. I said, in the next mini mail survey, uh, I know a bit about how Rex works. I said, I know it's going to lose 2 to 3 hours in the next mini mail survey. And he looked at me and he said, not my problem. And when I go in tomorrow, I'm sure I'll hear what they're going to do different. But other than that, I don't really know what to expect. I don't know what else to talk about.
So we have a
Well,
question for you from the listeners.
Yeah.
Do you share a case in your S&DC? I've seen rumors about cases that had removable labels so that several routes could share cases.
No sharing cases that I've seen.
And if they were, file on that, because we're not supposed to
yes.
share cases.
Yeah, there's actually probably at least 15, maybe 20 more cases that don't have any labels on them yet, because there was another town that was supposed to move in and they keep delaying it because I guess they have the city carriers there have their own they have like extra details in their contract that says they have to have their own parking. And there's not enough parking for them, so they keep pushing them off every 6 months, pushing them off. So I don't know what's going on with that.
So what's the average
Yeah.
when you walk into the facility? How far of a walk do you have to go to your case?
I don't know exactly. From when I get to work, I need 10 minutes to walk from the parking lot to where my scanner is, to get to my case, to get my badge, sign in. It's massive.
How many routes in general have grown with the conversion to the relocation to the SDC?
Every single one of them, I'm certain. There's some routes I talk to everybody. I try to, you know, be friendly with everybody, and I've heard of one of the people there told me that they gained 6 hours with the move. Yeah,
That leads me, it leads me back to the question of what are you saving, cost wise?
yeah, it there's some positive with that. And I don't know how they're saving money, but in my old office, we would have to wait. We'd get 2 truck runs or 3 truck runs, and I'd be in there. I like to go in and I do the least I have to in the office. I like to get in there and get out. at the S&DC. I go in there. Sometimes this package sorting machine is still running, but it's not often, and I can be out of there in an hour, maybe an hour and a half, and I'm out on the road. I don't want to be in there. It's nice to have everything ready, but it's massive, and it's just I am super upset with the cuts because my root does not need to be cut.
And they don't care.
They don't care. No. And I was understanding with him when he came back at me with that, not my problem. I said, okay, I understand. One of the other ladies in there, she told him it was complete bullshit, and everybody's
And he said,
everybody in there that's getting caught is not wanting it. That's what I don't understand. They're not going to the offices, these smaller offices that are begging for the cuts, and they can't get back until 8, 9 o'clock at night. They're coming to the S&DCs where nobody wants it. Nobody wants the cuts.
Are all the routes in the S&DC government vehicles, or are there still POV routes there?
I know of one POV route, but I think it's highway contract. Other than that, it's just LOVs and the mattresses.
Okay. Is
Yeah.
there still room in there? There's still room for more routes in there?
There's a lot of room for more routes. The trouble is the parking in our situation. There's not much room anywhere unless there's actually a local baseball stadium next door, and they've talked about using that parking lot in the off season, but in the summertime, I mean, they wouldn't be able to use it because it's busy over there. So
Sounds like, as usual, they didn't plan everything out before they made stuff happen.
yeah, I did hear something about that they bought a couple properties of places that are to be demolished to turn it into a parking lot. I also heard that out front of the post office, where I haven't even drove out front because it's the way I come into the back. I guess there's like an area that has a lot of grass that they said they're going to turn into a parking lot, but I haven't seen any of that. There
well,
is
what bothers me about this whole thing is that if you're a 48K, and I mean technically, at the 57.36, and you're not going over your evaluation, I believe you should have the option to be able to stay at a 48K. The old practice of 48K and 47s being overburdened has kind of gone out the door. But when you're talking about the 60, 65, 72, and 84-hour routes, therein lies the problem of being overburdened. 48K and you're doing it under evaluation, to me, does not constitute being overburdened.
I agree.
That may be arguable as far as individual situations, but in most general circumstances, if you're a 48K and you're under evaluation, you should be allowed to elect and stay at the 48K.
I agree. Like, I'm not overburdened, and I know they're going to cut me. Say I'm a 48K, they're going to cut me down to a 43 like the contract says. My route's going to go down to a J. I think it may be a 40K, but when it comes down to a 43K by May 18th, do you think it would be possible if I lose again and then I lose again because they cut it too much? Would I have any kind of grievance that they didn't cut it fairly? Because they didn't wait, and see two mini meal survey evaluations back to back that are in overburden status. I think that shows more true where it would be with two in a row, not just one right after the move, I don't know.
Prior to the move, what was your evaluation?
Originally, before the Rex, I was a 40K. When Rex first came in, I turned into a 40J. And then I went to a 41K with the move. It turned my, just with mileage and the traffic control points, I went up to a 45K. And then the survey with the move, it upped me to a 48K.
So I've heard this before about S&DCs. How accessible is management? How has your management changed? Things like that.
My postmaster is actually, he's been there since probably at least 6 months before the move. He went there to help set up and everything. We see a lot of management. My direct supervisor, he's honestly been good to me. Everything that I've put in for vacation for the union stuff for state and national convention, he's approved. There is quite a bit of subs coming in, and they were throwing them around. A few have quit. Some are okay with it, but we do have two stewards now. It was about 2 weeks ago that we had a steward election and have a chief steward and another steward because there's over 50 carriers in there. So they're doing good. Last week, the beginning of the week, I'm pretty sure the steward put in 5 grievances, and it was about the mapping because, the issue that is everywhere, management is doing the mapping without the carriers. And I think they've already had that grievance and then they continue to do it. But I don't know. I bug the management. I'm like, when am I going to do my mapping? A lot of other carriers don't do that. They want the manager to come to them, which they should, but I bug to make sure I can map. So I stay on them.
And that you
Now, do you
should.
do that end of shift?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot
Who's the
what
facilitator that helps you, or do you just do it with the management?
my direct supervisor has helped me with it. The second time I mapped, I got in there. He wasn't there that day. Had a floater, management floater, I guess they call them. He signed me into it, and I started working on it, started doing my plots, and then he had to go home for the day, and I wasn't done. So it didn't. I sat there for, I don't know, it was probably close to an hour redoing my plots because they were not right. And I went to save it or upload it, whatever it is. And that guy had left for the day and it needed to have his passcode put in. So it was pretty much wasted because nothing was saved. So
Hmm.
I got to bug again to do my mapping.
Well, actually, once you've put them in there,
Yeah.
even if you don't save, they should still be in there when you go back in to finally finalize it at the end.
Oh, but what about the ones that I changed from vacant to
Active.
active or the opposite? You think they would have
All
still saved?
They'll
all the
save,
cha-
it's just not going to submit it. So if you
Oh,
go before the next round of mapping, if you can get in there to finish it, to submit it, then instead of downloading it, you're just going to open it.
okay.
Because downloading it would be any changes through the edit book with AMS is where you want to download it. So, the once a month at the end of the month is when you want to hit, have them download it. That way you've got all the new changes from the edit book submission at the beginning of the month. Now, if you have to walk away and leave it and finish it at another day, you just would hit the open tab and not re-download it. Because if you re-download it, it's gonna wipe it out. But if you just open it, it'll pop up with all the changes.
Okay.
So your work was not wasted.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean,
Hopefully.
it was still an hour and a half of end of shift duties, you know? The not
Cha-ching.
not the chief steward, but the second steward that she's brand new. She hasn't even been to training yet. She is trying to be a mapping facilitator, and she's great. I hope she gets to, but I heard that that's up to management whether they can allow you to do that or not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It is. I was mapping facilitator as an RCA, and since I became regular, she kind of took it away from me and is doing it herself. Unless it's mine, then she just logs me in and I sit down and do my own. But which sucks. I mean, she could easily just, I could come in, get the route ready, go under a P code, and then be there when the carriers start coming back.
Yeah,
It's not big of a deal.
I don't understand that. Why I feel like there should be one carrier that knows that could be facilitator. It shouldn't be management's choice whether there is one or not. There should be a carrier that, that's just how I feel. But
Oh, and I agree completely. It doesn't hurt to have a carrier that knows the mapping system that can do it alongside the carriers, because not all carriers trust management, obviously. And I've heard some pretty swanky stuff going on, even with carriers that are there with management, to the point they don't even let them sit down next to them. They got to stand up behind them and just kind of point where stuff goes, instead of actually being able to get in there and see the map and pinpoint it correctly. So no, I
yeah,
completely agree that it doesn't hurt to have a carrier as a facilitator.
exactly. I've heard carriers tell me that management won't allow them to do it. They've only done, still only to this day, they've only mapped once. I push hard, so they usually, it's not, they give me a date. Okay, I'm gonna map this week on Tuesday. It's a lot of, there's 38 carriers there. So when our chief steward got that grievance, he did say, he came back to me and he said, well, management said it's all settled. He's gonna make a schedule of everybody's mapping times, which is good.
Hmm.
So
Proactive supervisor.
yeah, I mean, he had to file the grievance to do it, but he's pretty good. He's worked with me, so far. He calls me a troublemaker, but
Join the crowd.
what? I don't like being called a troublemaker. I don't want to cause trouble. I just want things done right.
But the problem of it is that if you don't call them on the carpet about this, then they'll just walk all over you. And it's
Mm,
not a matter of being a troublemaker when you stand up for yourself and your rights.
yeah.
It's called, an informed carrier.
Yeah. I try. It's hard. Because every minute, I mean, you guys help me out a lot. I'm telling you. But everything changes so much. One minute you hear one thing, you can ask two people in the same office 10 different questions, and you'll get 100 different answers. You know, it's
Well, opinions and assholes.
yeah,
We covered that in the very beginning.
Yes, we did.
yeah. It's just
And
they want to.
for the record, I'm not a perpetual troublemaker. I try to resolve things, in a intelligent adult type manner for most cases. But when you push the buttons, then I become a formidable individual, and people just they don't like my presence, and I usually win my way. But the thing of it is why do I have to go to that point? Why can't
Yeah.
we talk about this, and resolve it, amicably? But hey, you want to choose the fight? Baby Bill's stepping up.
I'm sure people in your office are super thankful for you.
and scared. Yeah, all you hear is, "Oh god, what's Bill gonna do now?"
Yeah.
How many
Um,
rural routes do you have in the S&DC?
38.
How do the S&DCs affect the union organization? Did any of your county units get completely moved into it?
What?
So, did with the moving into the S&DC, how did that affect like county units and things like that? Did they bring in outside from the single county or?
Oh no, it's all one county.
Okay, so it didn't affect, was it the entire county that moved in there or just parts of it?
Not the entire county. There's still quite a few. I'm not sure. I've heard some other offices are going to move in. I'm not sure if they're in the same county or not.
Oh,
So,
this is in relation to, the question there in the stage that, you know, you have to join the new county that you moved into, and
oh,
according to state charters, you don't have to change your county just because of where you're located at. It's your delivery office that you're basically assigned to in regards to your county assignment also. So
yeah,
you have to check your state, yes, check your state charter for that.
I hadn't heard that. Yeah, it should go by your zip code, whatever your zip code is, what county.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Lynn. We appreciate you coming in with a little insight on the S&DCs.
Yeah, any more questions or no?
Any more questions
Do
for
they
Lynn,
have
guys?
do they have nice break rooms with ice and water machines?
We do have a ice machine, a refrigerator, a soda machine, a snack machine, no coffee machine yet. There's a sink. It's extremely hot. Um, it's uncomfortably hot. That's part of why I get out of there quick, because it's, for me anyway, it's unbearably hot. Even the end of February, it was hot. Like they have, I don't know where they have, it's a boiler system, I guess, so they can't really, they say they can't.
Regulated. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, thank you for that. Um,
Well, we have the same problem in our office when it gets hot in the office. Then the carriers go and prop open the double swing doors, which lets in more cool air, which triggers the boiler to work more. It's like, folks, you're defeating the purpose here, you know.
yeah,
Do you guys have ample dock space? That was another question that popped up.
the main dock that they've always used is busy, but we actually have to, where we park our personal vehicles, it's a completely different lot. There's a bunch of LLVs parked up there, so we have to push our conveyance just as far as to where our vehicles are parked out in the back parking lot, up a hill, out the door, out some swinging doors. We push our conveyance right out in the parking lot.
But you'll love
Wow.
that in the winter.
Yeah. Hopefully they plow well, because we haven't had we got lucky we didn't get 4 feet of snow in March like we did a couple years ago.
I'm just gonna say this: if there's snow on the pavement, 1767, unsafe to haul equipment out to my vehicle with that much snow on the ground or
Yeah.
ice or anything like that.
eh, Yeah, and it took quite a while to be pushing. You got when we got heavy packages and stuff. It's quite a hill up the ramp to be pushing that stuff, but I'm used to it now. It's a workout.
All right,
I think
guys. Go ahead.
a lot of a lot of carriers don't I don't even want to say this because it's sad, but a lot of carriers don't even want to map. I'm like, it's once a month. This is your pay, you know? You should do it. It's what they just want to get in the afternoon and they want to go home. So I don't know what to what to do about that. There's carriers that come in early still. Different towns come in early. I won't touch anything until I clock in at 8 o'clock when I'm supposed to, you know?
You know, you can file a grievance on management allowing that, right?
I,
She's not a troublemaker, remember?
yeah,
True, but it does affect you in the long run. It
yeah,
does
it
affect
does.
us,
I don't
and
like it.
I mean the travel distance to the vehicles to drive to carry your conveyance out there. I'd file a grievance on that and give us a place close to the building that we can load our vehicles that is sheltered to protect the mail.
Yeah. There's
It's all about you, James. Okay.
there's no way, there's not enough room down, but it's really not that bad. I try to see the positive, but I I don't know, it's not as awful as I thought it would be, other than getting caught. The drive on the highway is pretty scary.
You take an
With the
LLV on the
vehicle.
highway,
Yeah, we
you're
all
braver than I am.
a lot of us a lot of us have highway driving. My mind is going blank. I'm like, I have very anxiety about public speaking. You know, I was president of the county for 3 years, and I can handle, like, you know, the local meetings now and have a pretty big voice and can handle that. But knowing that who knows how many people are going to be listening to me talk, I judge myself. I don't even know if I'll be able to listen to this episode with myself and listen to myself talk. I'm like,
You're doing fine.
You're only talking to 21 people right now. That's all you're talking to. There's 21
yeah,
people.
yeah, I'm good
That's
with
a
then-
that.
county meeting for some places.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's that's
And then
like yours pretty
the
much.
other 3,000, yeah, the other 3,000 that are going to listen to you this week.
Yikes!
And then we're gonna throw her up on the big stage at National.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's a little intimidating if you're not used to it. Trust me.
oh, I'm
Mhm.
scared. I haven't stood up at state yet because that scares me, but I will this year. And maybe it'll be, I mean, I shouldn't say maybe, I should say it will be the same year that I stand up and talk at state, that I stand up and talk at national, because I got you, Kristen.
She's my roommate for
It-
National too, so.
Yeah.
Nice.
It's just about talking to other carriers. That's all.
Yeah.
That's
Nobody
it.
better, nobody worse.
Yeah.
Nope. That's all it is. All right, guys, we're gonna wind this down tonight. Thank you, Lynn, for joining us and giving us a little heads up on an S&DC experience. We appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome. I appreciate it too. Thanks for letting me talk. And I'll talk to you guys again sometime.
All right.
Thanks for the
Definitely.
insight.
I
Thanks for
hope
your
I
input.
did okay.
You did
You
fine.
All
We'll let
right.
our listeners decide, and they can post it in the comments, and Kristen will share them with you.
Okay. Sounds good.
Thank you, guys. All right, James, any final commentary for tonight?
A lot, but I'll try to make it short. You know, we do these for the craft because we actually believe in the craft and are the craft as well. We do the same job everybody that listens to us does on the floor. We're regular carriers just like everybody else. And to see things going the way they are and the change that we want to make it better for everybody in the craft is the whole reason we're here. Every week, we're here because of the craft, for the craft. And even if you're just starting out, or you've got 30 years of experience, you've got 15 years as an RCA, whatever your case is, you are our brother and sister, whichever you are. Because at the end of the day, no matter what, we're all in this together. Bill?
Well, like I said, we do this for the craft, and even my wife begrudgingly has put off her Mother's Day massage for an hour and a half. That's the only reason we're here, to help educate, to listen. That's the one thing we do better than the national board. We listen to you. We appreciate your input. We try to address your concerns, but we listen because we're in the same boat as you are. And who better to represent you than people who are on the ground with you every day, instead of these politicians who are just trying to pad their retirement and giving you piss ass platitudes in regards to, oh, I represent you. I have your interests at heart. No, you don't. Not even close. We don't have to do this. We're compelled to do this. I sometimes think we're crazy for doing it, but that's okay. I've got a good group of crazies with me, and I wouldn't go anywhere in the battle without them. And I wouldn't go into this battle, national convention, without everybody who's listening and who contributes to our podcast, to the questions, the listener chat, and everything else. This is all about you, and we're part of you. Don't ever forget that. And if I get one more comment about the pink thong, I'm going to be handing them out at the national convention.
Really?
And we'll have them
Really?
screen
Really?
printed. Bill for president.
Yes.
Right across the back strip.
Everybody go out and have a good week. Be safe, be efficient, be professional, and make sure that you get the most important delivery done on time. At the end of the day, get yourself home to your loved ones. Be safe. God bless y'all.
Thank you guys.
Kristen?
And again, yes. Thank you guys. And a good thank you out to Lynn for joining us. And this is definitely about you guys. We wouldn't be doing what we do if it wasn't for the carriers of the craft. We wouldn't be stepping up and running for national offices if it wasn't for caring so much about every single one of you out there and every single person within the craft that is working every day and pushing through the good and the bad right alongside everybody. And that's what we're here for. We're here for the entire craft as a whole. And we want everybody to stay safe this week, and we will be back next week.
Don't bring the
Bring whatever you
190.
want.
I don't want to get intimate with a cactus. Bush, okay.